Hey guys, I'm Gary Lawyer, and you're listening to me on Music Existence. And I'm on with my friend. So, and this is a sound check. Is that okay?
Yes. Welcome to another instance of Music Existence, where because of music, we exist. Now with me, I have the man with the golden voice. This is Gary Lawyer, an Indian singer-songwriter. He has a multi-genre sound comprising blues, rock and roll, and jazz. He's opened for international acts like Def Leppard and Bryan Adams, and for a brief time, he's even dipped his toes in the world of Bollywood. But the greatest thing is now he's released a bulk of his classic material to streaming services, and I've been going through it, and I've really started to appreciate just how artistic and open-minded he is genre-wise. And I'm so glad to have him right now. Gary, can hardly contain myself, man. It's great to see you, man.
Great to see you. Great to see you, Jake. Yeah, but may I just start off with a correction? The Bollywood thing I didn't do even for a brief time. I just did one song, That's like not even an experiment. It was for a guy who really wanted to use my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really just a one-off thing, which I did, I guess, in a way for fun or whatever, but it was certainly not my goal, so to speak. So I've done one Bollywood song, which ironically became quite popular.
Mm-hmm.
And since I've been labeled as a Western musician and a Bollywood singer, which I'm not. Case in point is the 7 albums that I have, all in the genres of Western music.
Yeah.
But these are full. We'll talk about that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I see, because I see Road Ke Hai Mote, and then Yahan Sab Ko Sab. I remember you. That was corporate, right?
That's I don't know how this even came about, so to speak. I'm not knocking it. It's just that it's really not me. I've just been steeped in Western music since I was born. And this was just a one-off thing that I did actually for a friend, a wonderfully talented music director and a wonderful person.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just literally an experiment because he kept saying that if you don't do this song, I'm going to shelve it and you sing it your way and you don't have to have the typical inflections. You don't have to do anything but just read the words and, do it the way you want. And that's exactly what I did. And like I said, ironically, it has become like a talking point in the sense that I do get mistaken sometimes as a guy who also does Bollywood, which I don't.
Yeah. But it's so cool to encompass the full spectrum of your career and see where it all began.
Yeah. Like I say, I'm not knocking it. It's just, it's just something that I did. But what my concentration at this point in my life is that I finally managed to get my 7 albums, all 7 albums, which were made on labels, together in my possession, and have put it on distribution platforms through a company called AWAL, AWAL, which is owned by Sony. So I guess it's technically Sony that's put up all my albums. And that's really my whole focus. And this is really a high point in the sense that I've always dreamt of having all my songs available to anybody who's interested.
Including me.
People are. Yeah, okay.
Oh man! So one thing we talked about is you when you were growing up, you're a Parsi, is that right? Like
I'm
Freddie Mercury.
Right. We're a small, minuscule community, mainly centered around India. That's the maximum population, but we are all over the world. And in spite of the few numbers that we are, we've really contributed a lot to wherever we are. I mean, be it in the world of Western music, you have Freddie Mercury, who is a Parsi. You also have Zubin Mehta, he's the maestro who's conducted major symphonies all over the world, including the Los Angeles Symphony, I believe the New York Symphony. I mean, Zubin is a genius. So we're from the same community. And the reason for my being so steeped into Western music is because I think the Parsis, to begin with, culturally are very Westernized. I mean, we speak English at home. Our education, of course, is English. And everything about us is very influenced by the West,
Yeah.
ironically.
And
Yeah.
you spoke three languages when you were growing up. You spoke English, Hindi,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Gujarati.
Gujarati is a kind of second language for the Parsis. You know, it, it's actually the other language that Gujarati speak at home and with amongst friends, etc. But it's yeah, and there's one more language which I kind of speak. It's Marathi as well. So four languages.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah,
that's something. So a polyglot and a half.
yeah,
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 and I was wondering,
yeah, yeah.
growing up in that sort of environment, which albums did you take to that had a really big impact on you growing up? Did you grow up in, was it the 60s?
No, I'd say a little earlier, and
Okay,
I'd say,
late
yeah, my
50s?
my eldest brother was a pianist. I mean, he was, from what I remember, he was fairly good,
Yeah,
and he used to bring all these records. And I guess the first, and my mother, who
okay,
died when I was very young, was a
okay.
huge Nat King Cole fan. You know,
Nat King
so
Cole, wow.
yeah, so she's left me with a whole legacy of, I think, every single release that Nat King Cole ever did. You know, from the early Nat King Cole when he was a jazz pianist and not a vocalist, all the way to his last release. You know, so obviously Nat was a huge influence in my childhood. Like I said, like I always say, I never went through a nursery rhyme stage. You know, it was straight on to the big singers. It was like Nat King Cole, Ray Charles. I mean, that musician just took me to another level. You know, I mean, influence-wise. Then, of course, Sinatra. Then later on, I think everybody, the world has been influenced by Elvis, and other greats like Jim Morrison and the Doors, Freddie Mercury. So I mean that's really been my influence. But that's not to say that there aren't others. It's just that to name 6 or 7 is to leave out 100. You know,
Yeah.
everybody's an influence one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody.
And then, like, as far as like hard rock, rock and roll, how did you
Yeah,
get inspired as a guitarist, a guitar player?
yeah. Well, it's a strange journey, Jake. I started off actually forcing my father to try and buy me a trombone. You
Oh,
know,
well.
I was crazy about the trombone. Yeah. Through Louis Armstrong's trombonist. I'm going as far back as that, a guy called Trummy Young. You know, I used to love his solos. But in those days, when we went looking for a trombone, there was no trombone to be bought, you know. So I settled for a trumpet. So I started, fooling around with the instrument. But then, ironically, and it's so ironical that when I formed my first band, we literally traded in the trumpet for a microphone, you know. So that's the strange thing. So yeah, and then of course I started playing piano and guitar and stuff like that. And when I was with a band, my very first band, I was too shy to sing, so I'd be playing rhythm guitar in a corner. So that's how the guitar part of it came into my life. And I mean, the rest was just progression after progression, sort of a thing. Then the
So,
Beatles. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, the Beatles just blew me away absolutely. I think if I remember right, that was uh, college days. You know, the whole British invasion, as it were.
So like when
So,
they were Ed Sullivan, that was 64. Yeah, that was right when they were big, right?
yeah, in those days we couldn't see those programs. You know, India was quite kind of cut off from the rest, so we'd get albums from where we'd get it from. You know, there'd be people who travel abroad and bring the latest releases, etc. And ironically, my house one was an address whenever people had LPs, you know, long playing records to sell, they'd land up at my doorstep, and I'd buy them from, you know. So that's how I built up a collection, which I still have. I mean, I
Wow.
have a majority, yeah, and I think I have every single Ray Charles. I think I have every single Elvis. I have every single Doors. I think every single Beatles. I mean, right through the ages.
So like these are like first pressings, right?
Yeah, pretty much so. Yeah. I think they might be worth a fortune, actually. You know, exactly.
Because you were right
So,
there. You were right there at that time. You got them right when they were coming out, right?
yeah, like I say, it might sound pretentious, but I saw the birth of rock and roll, sort of a thing. You know, I was, of course, a very, very young guy. I mean, exceedingly young, but impressionable enough to know that I noticed the change of style in, you know, like in hairstyling, in the manner in which people dressed. You
Yeah.
know,
They were
I,
mop
I
tops, then they got a bit longer.
yeah, long hair and the ducktails, and I saw the suits, you know, the formal suits being shelved and replaced by leather jackets, sort of a thing. I remember seeing all that as a baby, you know, and leaving quite a mark on me, actually. So I've literally, that was really the birth of rock and roll, really. And that moved me so much I can't even describe. You know, everybody talks about Elvis's Heartbreak Hotel, and no, I mean, I can't describe the influence that that song had on me. You know, I mean, it was being hit with a sledgehammer, sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, very drawn to blues and Ray, and
Yeah, and
yeah,
so your normal trajectory, you know,
yeah,
as
mm,
someone where you're from, you know,
yeah,
you pursued originally, like you told me off screen, political
yeah,
science, and then
yeah.
you traded that into rock and roll. So
Well,
what
you
drew
know,
you to New York City?
yeah. Well, my background is uh, uh, I come from a kind of educated family. You
Oh,
know,
cool.
we've all been through school and college, and we're all pretty much degree holders.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was to please the family. You know, because I did my bachelor's in economics and politics, but that's not to say that I ever dreamt of being a politician or an economist or whatever. You know, my heart was all music. I did that to please the family, so to speak. You know, to something that I had to do, and yeah, and then I started singing seriously when I went to New York
So what
to
was
live.
that in the early 80s? Was that in the early
Yeah,
80s
yeah,
now?
yeah. So that's when I started singing at showcase theaters, and how it would work is like you'd go to a showcase theater and then you'd kind of showcase your talent, and if they liked you, judging by the audience response, they'd call you back and they'd call you back. It was quite a tedious routine, you know,
Yeah,
and
because it was before
yeah,
email where you can email each
yeah,
other.
yeah. It was like literally, you know, trudging through snow and stuff like that with my 12
Plus
string
all the
guitar.
charges from the phone. Like you had to like spend like
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
$5 here and there. Like your
yeah,
phone bills were like charged up
yeah.
to
Yeah. It's another world, you know. It's so different now. So I started singing there, and then cut a long story short, after staying in New York for a number of years, I decided to come back when my elder daughter was born, for whatever reason. I wanted her to grow up like I grew up in Bombay, you know. In its own way, I find it a very gracious place. And ironically, when I came back, I'd done like a demo in the US of A, what we called a demo, you know. And I happened to do, I think, two songs at a friend's concert. I was just dragged up on stage, and the whole theater sort of erupted. I mean, this is the truth. And in the theater was a guy from HMV EMI, you know, a guy called VT Ravi, who
Yeah.
got in touch with me at that show and said, listen, I don't know where you're from, but tell me a little about your background, and do you have original songs, etc., etc. And I said, yes, I do. And he heard the demo, and he signed me up to do a Western music album. When Bombay really, India really didn't have the infrastructure, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first went into the studio and gave it a shot, it somehow wasn't working at all. So we kind of didn't shelve the idea, but kept it in abeyance, you know, for another time. Then in the meantime, there was another studio which was called Rave Studio, owned by a friend of mine who was pretty into technology and stuff like that. His studio came into being, and it kind of offered the kind of sound that I was looking for. So I rounded up, and I was very lucky because these very young, enthusiastic musicians all pitched in, and we became like a set band for that album in the studio. And now, of course, they're very, very established musicians, but in those days they were out to prove themselves, and I think they did on that album. So my very first album was called This Cannot Wait. And just to name the band, there was Zubin Balaporia on keyboards, a very well-known keyboard player now. Mahesh Tinaikar on guitar, very well-known guitar player as well. Ehsan Nurani, who's almost legendary right now in the world of music, as in he's a very big Bollywood composer, apart from the fact that his soul is really in blues. Carl Peters, a legendary bass player. Mark Menezes, who now lives in New Zealand, a lovely drummer. And I was very lucky to come across a guy called Rajiv Kenkre, who hadn't done he hadn't done a lot of work, but he happened to come into my first session, and he was so enthusiastic and he was so good that I requested the studio owner. I said, let Rajiv just do the whole album for me. And that's what happened. So I had a lovely sound engineer who today is like one of India's leading sound engineers, a guy called Rajiv Kenkre, do the sound. So that was my, I think there were 13 songs on that album. The only drawback with that album, the way it is now, is that in those days we recorded on cassette, you know, and I had to take cassette as a kind of source, you know, as a kind of base. And there might be a little bit of fluctuation in terms of speed, etc., etc. But it's hardly noticeable. I notice it, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It got some really great songs on it. I really love the album. I love the instrumentation that's gone into it, the whole feel, and you can feel the energy of the musicians really putting in their bit, you know.
You're the first thing in my life that's made me feel like life is worth just more than a song. Made me feel like life is worth all the ups and downs that seem to come my way.
So it was really a delight doing the album. It was a highly successful album, by the way. It came out on cassette, and I think it sold out to the last copy. So after that, it was like by the same company and the same A&R person who I'm still in touch with, a guy called VT Ravi, delightful guy. He kind of commissioned me, if that is the right word, to do another album. So I thought in terms of doing an album of jazz standards.
Yeah.
With this keyboard player called Louis Banks, who's, I mean, he's really a maestro. In many parts of the world, he's regarded as about the finest, you know.
Yeah.
And he's been all over the world playing with various leading uh, fusion bands, and uh, Zakir Hussain, to name one. I think he's played with Dizzy Gillespie, and So we did this jazz album, which we called High Standards,
Hmm.
where we did like Georgia on My Mind,
I love
Misty.
that. I love how you did that one. You went like Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia, the whole day through.
I love how you. That's probably the
Yeah.
best one on that
Jake, I
album that you did.
really like the album. I'm not saying it as sales talk. I kind of marvel at how we did all this. And these were all one take songs.
One
In those days,
take.
yeah, literally, all of them pretty much one take. Yeah, I don't think there were any punch-ins, as it were.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I like each and every song. I really love, and of course, Louis' soloing, etc., is just. I mean, it's phenomenal. It really is. I love the whole feel,
Louis
the
Banks,
way.
the way you play off of each other too, like vocally and with the keyboards.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. But then we've had a great history in the sense that we did 1,000 jingles before we went into the studio to do the album.
That's
So
your
I think
track record.
yeah, oh yeah. I did a lot of jingles. I mean, there was a time when I was doing like 7 to 8 jingles a day, whether I was needed or not. They just wanted me in the studio.
Did you do that alongside music, or like was that completely
Oh
separate?
yeah. By then the shows had really started, so I was touring a lot. And I remember even the few times that, a lot of times they'd hold the jingle till I got back from wherever I was. They wouldn't uh, get it done with anybody else.
Right.
They just wait for me. Yeah. So there was Louis Banks on keyboards. There was again Carl Peters, the bassist on fretless bass, and he's done some really beautiful uh, 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 bass playing.
Mm-hmm.
A guy, Rajesh Singh, on drums,
Yeah.
multi-talented, and again Rajiv Kenkre, the sound engineer. So there were 3 of us, me being the 4th,
Yeah.
and we got a great sound. Louis with his idea of strings and of course keyboard solos, etc., etc. It's I really love the album. So that's an album called High Standards.
Getting to your third album, The Other
third
Side
album.
of Dawn, that was like your big album, breakthrough album.
That was recorded in New York City with really great musicians.
Yeah, I love the
Produced
sound.
a genius of a producer called Chris Bertolotti,
Chris,
very
yeah.
well known. Yeah, and Indian friend of mine called Suresh Shotham, who was living there. And Suresh himself was, yesteryear had a lovely band called Human Bondage in India. They were really huge. So produced by Chris Bertolotti and Suresh Shotham, great guitar player called Jeff Kay, who I think has toured with really big names. Bass player, a guy called Mike Stanzelis, and drummer Sean Pelton, who's the drummer of the Saturday Night Live Orchestra.
Wow.
Now, yeah, and of course he's played with the greatest. He has to play with anyone who comes on that program, and everybody gets onto that program, Saturday Night Live. I think it's the #1 program in America. So I was really privileged and blessed to have these guys together. And how it worked was I'd made a rough demo and I'd sent it across to my brother-in-law who lives in America. And at that time, my brother-in-law Murad had a lovely studio, 1600 Broadway. And Murad kind of spread it around. And Chris got to hear of this and jumped right in, fixed up the whole band for me. And that's how
It
the
really
album...
helps to have those connections, right?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, but I've always believed that things only happen when they're meant to happen, When it's meant to happen, everything falls into place. When it's not meant to happen, nothing falls into place. That's really a belief. I mean, in that light, That's the way I live also, you know. So we did this album, which was again on tape, but of course the technology by then had
I got
advanced a
the
lot.
CD. I got the CD.
You got, yeah, okay. And it was mastered at the EMI studios in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And we got a lovely feedback from Los Angeles itself to say that Gary would definitely sell here with a good video, etc., etc. But that again meant relocating back to the States, which I had no intentions of doing. Yeah, ironically, yeah, but no regrets. So that album was very, very, very successful, if I may say so myself.
I know.
And I think full credit to the circumstances, in the sense that MTV had come into India with the idea of discovering Indian Western music talent, if you know what I'm saying, you know.
Yeah.
And EMI took full advantage, and of course financed a video for me, professionally made. And everybody chose Nights on Fire, and it became huge. It did. It really did.
You set my nights on fire, heat blazing red. You set my nights on fire, I'm caught in sensual.
I mean, it was pirated so heavily, the whole album. I got a lot of gigs. I mean, we were flying all over this region, including a tour of the UAE, where
Wow.
I have to tell you an incident where when we landed and we got into our bus and the radio was on, and I was being discussed, you know, like the DJ was talking about Gary Lawyer and offering a prize to anybody who knew anything about my background, you know, where I was from, who I was. So, and we were having such a laugh about that.
They probably said, like, is this guy really a lawyer?
No, I think it was more in terms of, people had got to know that I lived in America. And at that time, I still had my green card and everything, you know. So do I live here, or am I American, or what is this guy? You know, you know, and they put me on all kinds of leading programs in Dubai and stuff like that. And I walked into a music shop, and there's like this cassettes of Other Side of Dawn from ceiling to floor, and the shopkeeper recognizes me and gives me a copy of my own pirate. You know, I still have. Yeah, but that was really, really, really successful.
Yeah, yeah. And the first song I heard from The Other Side of Dawn was "Ridin'," and I love love that song "Ridin'." I love the music video, like where you're stressed out, you're like burned to the ground, you're typing away on your typewriter, you're like pissed, you're like, to hell with this. Smash that typewriter. I love it.
Yeah. And that was one of the. We actually got 4 videos out of that one album. You know?
Wow.
There was Nights on Fire. Then there was the title song called "The Other Side of Dawn." Then there was a song. Then there was a song called "Silence of the Night," and a song called "Riding." So 4 videos from that one album. I mean, like I say, it was very, very, very successful.
And you really love those videos. You love like the creativity in those videos, right?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was something, you know, which I hadn't experienced before, and to be in professional hands, so to speak, you know, and it was a lovely thing because in doing those 4 videos, it was almost like working with family. The filmmaker Mahesh Mathai, who is a very well-known filmmaker and a wonderful person, and his team and his company, I think it was called Highlight in those days, very, very successful. So it was such a incredible experience to do all these videos, you know, one after the other, and to know that it was working, because that album was really, really selling well, and it was a very successful album. So everything was worth it. Me flying to New York and getting it done, and and of course meeting with those musicians. My only regret, when I look back, and is that I kind of feel I let everybody who was involved with that album down, in the sense that I didn't really go back to push it the way I should have. And the reason I didn't is because that's just me, Jake. I just can't get into being managed and getting an agent and getting a lawyer and getting a manager. Yeah, I'm even now I don't have a manager. You want me to come and do a gig for you? Get in touch with me. I'm my own manager.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's what I love about you. Like, I was able to contact you directly to be able to do this interview.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah. And I like it that way. Keep it simple. Just keep it simple, and I'm very content being the way I am and who I am.
Yeah. So with that album, with The Other Side of Dawn, beyond the initial push, through MTV, it's like that was it, and then you were up to the next thing. It's not like it was the push. And then there was Gary, like posing on magazines and all that.
I went from strength to strength, That explains, I guess, doing 7 albums in this part of the world, which I think is a miracle. So after The Other Side of Dawn, I signed on with a company called Magna Sound, which was a huge company. And to the credit of that label, they were highly successful with whichever artist they took on, I'm talking Punjabi, Bhangra, or Bollywood, or whatever they took on became major acts. So I signed on with Magna Sound, very dynamic owner of the company called Shashi Gopal.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, something went wrong after I recorded it, but I'm talking about marketing-wise, but I did manage to go back to New York and get the same guys to play on my album. It was like, it was unbelievable to be back in the studio with the same absolutely brilliant musicians. It's called Arrow in the Dust.
Yeah, Arrow in the Dust. And like, for quick context, I know, like, you kind of came into the Indian rock scene kind of as it was getting off the ground, but it's cool. Yeah. It's cool because, like, early to mid 90s, Rock Machine was hitting their stride. 13 AD came out with Ground Zero. That was an enormous song too. And, and it's so cool to see all of this happening simultaneously.
Yeah. No, in the case of Rock Machine, they of course, they're much younger than me, and they were my backup band for a long spell, till they became Induscreed, and of course, they're very successful, and they're exceedingly talented, all of them,
Yeah.
They have a brilliant guy called Uday Benegal, who I think is about the best I've ever heard here, this part of the world.
Yeah.
So they're a lovely unit, but they're a lovely bunch of boys, I'm very familiar with them. They're great friends of mine also, and I'm constantly in touch with them one way or the other. But just to speak about myself, I kind of, from the time I came to India, things just started happening one after one, It was like I was accepted with open arms. Like, people had known even before I went to live in the States, that, okay, there's this guy called Gary, who should be heard, but he refuses to sing, and, because there was no infrastructure. The equipment was really terrible, and the kind of shows that were going on were not even worth getting involved with. But by the time I'd come back, things were really happening. And so, like I say, jingles played a huge part, because the bottom line is money. And once I got into the jingles thing, there was no stopping me. I composed a lot of jingles. I got a lot of awards. I mean, I was very, and I almost consciously got out of that whole thing, because once you're stuck there, you can't get out of the quicksand sort of a thing. And my vision and my need was to do albums. And that's really what happened. One thing led to another to another. I mean, imagine just singing at a friend's concert and someone from HMV, EMI being in the audience and then getting in touch with me. And, like I said earlier, so it was just meant to be.
And then by Arrow in the Dust, like you've really grown as a musician. Your sound is also becoming like really heavier, like almost like, more alternative, kind of grungy sounding by that point.
Yeah, I mean, that you might be able to analyze it better than I would. You know what I mean? I mean, did what comes naturally, but I'm very happy to hear your feedback. In fact, I'd like you to spend 15 minutes one day just writing a private letter to me, telling me what you really think about the songs, what you think, where they came from, why they came, how, it would be a nice experiment, because I don't get to speak to too many people who go that deep. They might say, okay, matters of the heart, Gary, I love your, Call of the Wild or whatever, but doesn't go further. But this is a nice analysis. Yeah, the sound definitely changed a bit. Pretty much the same source as the other side of dawn, I'd say, by virtue of the composer is still me, and the musicians are pretty much the same musicians, So we had a very distinct style growing with this whole. If you hear both the albums, there's a very definite link between the two. There's a certain substance that's common to both albums.
Yeah, and it's common to the time period by which the albums came about, because in the early 90s, things were very much still like reverberation, very like hard rock driven. Sometimes you would find like a kind of a U2 kind of influence. And then by the mid 90s, everyone was looking for the next Nirvana. So like everyone was like distorted guitars. And I feel like some of that coming on in Arrow in the Dust. It's a lot like heavier sounding.
Yeah. I mean, songs like, now if I take a song like Highway to Heaven,
and
which is actually and even what?
And even Maybe.
Maybe it's a nice, cool, laid-back song, really. I think it has a nice atmosphere. So, in fact, Highway to Heaven and Maybe are two videos that came out of that particular album. Yeah. But Highway to Heaven, of course, is a motorcycle song, which another thing that I find I'm absolutely crazy about motorcycles.
I know that's your jam, right? Motorcycle.
Yeah.
Just like riding was like the motorcycle. And even in This Cannot Wait, like I pictured like this coming of age kind of scenario. Like all the songs are very like 80s montage, like we got to do this.
Yeah, but even This Cannot Wait has a motorcycling song called So,
you see how it's all connected?
It's all connected. It's all connected. It definitely is all connected for sure. And I like I say, and I don't say it, for any other reason, but I really now when I hear my albums back, I just hear it for listening pleasure, and I'm kind of blown away. I really am. I feel somehow all the labor that I put in has it's served its purpose. I feel it's been worth all the effort, and I'm in a sense in a place where I really want to be. I'm still totally independent. I don't have to do anything that I don't want to do, and I do things I only want to do. I'm in full control. I've got my songs back. I'm very, very thankful that I was able to interact with these musicians here and abroad.
Yeah.
Like I say, if there's any regret, it could be once in a way thinking, wow, if I had stayed behind and really done what I was supposed to do, what would have,
Yeah.
what could have been, sort of a thing. But I that's a fleeting thought. I don't think too much further.
Yeah.
So that then, now Arrow in the Dust is with Sony Records because, like I say, there was a problem with Magna Sound going down a bit and stuff like that. Then came an album that I did, which is now named No Turning Back, which I did with
from
fabulous
Unbelong, it was Unbelong first, and then No Turning.
Yeah. So now it's the No Turning Back, which is what I've been doing is now that I don't really need to get really professional about doing videos. Now in the age of internet, I can pretty much do a video in my bedroom or in my own home and just put it out on Facebook and whatever, on all the public channels, sort of a thing.
Every night it's the glass and eyes pour me a drink, see my world through black and white. I've got the rest of my night.
So that's what I've been doing. And there's so much to put out. Right now, I'm on No Turning Back.
Okay.
And,
so you're on that. And I noticed on No Turning Back, there's a song that you did before on This Cannot Wait called Garden in the Rain. Tell me about that song.
Two songs, Garden in the Rain and Mother Nature. Because those are, it's a very, very, I could go on speaking for hours. There was a record executive who heard Garden in the Rain and really, really liked it. And I think I could have pursued that and really got a record contract and stuff like that. But it all meant just one thing, and that is going back to the States and settling again, which was definitely not part of what I wanted to do.
Right.
So, so Garden in the Rain is a song that's been appreciated right through. In fact, we almost made another video of that song. And Mother Nature and Me, like I say, I'm a biker, so I love that song. I love the lyrics. So these two songs we did.
In the night when I am sleeping, you come through to me like some beautiful garden in the rain. Riding down the highway, making the connection between nature and me.
No Turning Back is a very varied album. That's what I love about it. Every song is has its own mood, its own style. And of course, there's brilliant guitar playing and brilliant production. And I really love the way it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mahesh has done an incredible job. After that, Virgin Records kind of took 3 albums and juggled around the songs and called it Nights on Fire, Best of Gary Lawyer.
Yeah, that's your greatest collection.
Well, yeah. I mean, they called it the best of.
Yeah, best of.
So it has pretty much all the songs. If you want to kind of Gary Lawyer in a nutshell, so to speak, then that I guess is the one to go for. Yeah. Okay, so that's that. Then I came to there was something that I always wanted to do since I play keyboards, I play guitar. I'm very aware of bass. I can pretty much go through drums, etc., etc.
Oh wow!
So,
So, speaking about that, was learning other instruments? Were you like self-taught?
yes, pretty much so. I mean, ironically, the only thing uh, where I took lessons seriously was vocals. I did
Oh,
Western class 5 years, yeah, in college with this Parsi lady. She was very, very well known. And so I did almost 5 years of Western classical training, which has helped me, and I'll tell you how. I'm actually a bass baritone, to get a little technical, but I sing well into the tenor range because of the training that I've had, you know. So that's
yeah.
why I'm able to, at a given concert, maybe do a couple of Sinatra tracks and then get straight into rock and, get into a bit of shouting and
In the
screaming.
first album, you do sing pretty high on This Cannot Wait. You sing like
Yeah,
you sing
yeah.
pretty high.
On Fire is a very high song. Try
Yeah.
singing. Yeah, to get it's a tough song to sing. Yeah. So, I got down to doing this album by myself, where I did everything. I was recording it. I was playing all the instruments on it. I mixed it. I produced it. I did everything, and it was more a demo endeavor sort of a thing. It was done with the idea of making a demo. But I just liked the raw energy so much, and so did people who heard it. They said, no, you should put this out as a. I mean, there are a lot of songs that sound really nice and complete, but I think the overall energy, the intensity that the album has is quite something. So I brought it out as a full album, and that also is up there. I had a video from that called Heaven's Child, which is the title song.
Heaven's child, born in the wild. Your heart beats heavy, but your legs are strong. Yeah.
So that's pretty much my thing. I'd like to kind of say one thing, that a couple of my songs have been put in on compilations with, the other international greats, so to speak.
In fact, before This Cannot Wait, you did a song with your wife called "We Were Both
That's
So
the-
Young."
Yeah. You've really done your research, Jake.
Now with age, we seem to have matured. Perfect hand in glove. Ooh, I can't imagine how we came around. 'Cause we were both so
Oh,
I'm very impressed.
I wonder, like, how was that? Was that like, so was that your very first, like, instance
My very
of
first
anything? Yeah.
That was my very first recording, so to speak.
Wow. We were
Yeah.
both so young. Wow.
Yeah, we were both so young, and it really got a lot of attention, because in those days there was actually more radio than there is now for Western music. It was played very widely, and the next thing I know is HMB puts it on a compilation with the likes of Kenny Rogers and Don Williams and Gordon Lightfoot and people like that, which are huge names.
Were those
So
people that you admired?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I admire anybody. None of these guys got there by accident. I'll tell you that. They're all very, very talented.
Yeah,
I
wow.
believe none of them. All of them have something or the other that they've given, which has been appreciated. So yeah. So, and then my Nights on Fire is on a compilation, a Virgin compilation with the likes of Deep Purple, Whitesnake, Mr. Big, Foreigner. I mean, these are mega bands. And another song called, what is it called? Stars Become You is like on a soft ballad kind of compilation.
Wow.
Again, with a very, very varied. Nora Jones, again, Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that Dean Martin song. I mean, they're big names. And then suddenly there's Gary Lawyer as well.
Suddenly.
So, yeah, so I've been featured on, which I think is a huge achievement, given that, I live in India
Yeah.
and I do purely Western music in a Bollywood-driven society.
Mm-hmm.
And I do make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
even the compilations, like
yeah.
the fact that you do them, you fit in them well.
Yeah. No, I try and do justice to anything that I do in my life. If I play a game, I want to be good at the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I've always been. If sports, I'm very into sports. And I try and do everything well. I've really given it my all, and now my reward is when I hear it back. That I have to admit. I just love my albums. I'll be honest with you. It's not meant to sound pretentious. It's just the way I feel. I really feel very genuine that it was, and now when I put out these videos on Facebook, mainly Facebook, because you get immediate feedback.
Right.
I get such beautiful comments from so many people that I don't know at all. And that is your reward,
Yeah, including me several years ago. Like I commented, I'm like, I can't wait till you put this out. I can't wait till you put this cannot wait out. I'm excited, and now I am excited to finally hear everything.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you've held on to this, man. You have like all your albums are like in great condition, and even like you even have like your masters, right? The mix masters.
Yeah, most of them, yes. Yeah, except for This Cannot Wait, I don't have.
Okay.
Because I remember that was the one mistake I made, was not keeping the master. But I say that even if I probably wouldn't have the equipment to play it on, it was so ancient.
It was like what was it? A reel, like a reel to reel.
16 track quarter inch or something like that. So, I mean, all credit to the guys who handled it, to the sound engineers who made it sound as good as it does. Yeah. So, and of course, starting with The Other Side of Dawn, Arrow in the Dust, even My Heaven's Child, these are all mastered abroad, with the studios or with Master Disc, which is a huge name in the world of mastering. And so it's really been lovely. And I have it in my mind to do like another album now, just waiting for a couple of people that I've contacted to get back to me with their answer to if by chance they could get a budget enough for me to start recording.
Oh, wow. So you are thinking of doing a new album?
Songs I would love to do. I really would, But coming back to the composition part of it, there are many great ideas that come into me, great as in what I think would be great songs. I kind of shelved them, which is not a good thing.
No.
That's what I miss about not doing it in the West, because if you were a professional there, it would be a continuous, it would be like a rolling thing. It's few and far between,
Yeah.
But considering everything that's happened in my life and my circumstances, I have nothing to complain about. Get my share of gigs, and I'm off to Dubai very soon. Something or the other keeps popping up, and all on my terms. And so it's been wonderful. It's been almost like God sent sort of a thing. And I appreciate all that I've done. I just hope that people get a chance to give all these albums a nice, fair hearing, And as far as what I would like for album, sitting this part of the world, a very well-known music industry lawyer, who heard my song, said, Gary, since you don't want to move back to the West, one of the things that you could really think about is maybe going into publishing, because according to him, and I'm quoting him, he says, "You write such lovely songs. Maybe some other big artist could pick up one of your songs, and you could start like a whole new idea of songwriting, which I would love to do. For me to write songs is not difficult. They just keep coming.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, for
to the
me
point where-
too.
Yeah, I mean, to the point where I hear a car horn and it kind of sparks up a
Yeah,
song
it's
in my head.
the same. It's the
Really?
same thing. I'll tell you. One time, I remember when I was younger, and I
Yeah.
heard my family and I were staying in a hotel, and I heard the sink, but then like the way the sink made a noise, it sounded like a guitar song, like.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then I was like, oh wow, I can use that as like a lead guitar sound on like
That-
one of my songs.
So let's talk about you for a little while, Jake. Now, so
Okay,
you're
cool.
is it? You're
Yeah.
a musician.
Yeah, and I love music from around the world, and that's how I kind of got in
That's how it-
contact with you.
Right, that's right. Yes, yeah, amazing. So are you basically a singer or a keyboard
Yeah,
player?
I
or
play guitar and sing,
Oh,
and
lovely.
and there's this thing, when you post, I don't know, it's kind of like how India was back in the day. When you post your original songs, no, like very few people want to hear them. But then when you post covers, they love the covers.
Yeah. Which brings me to what I'm doing. Sorry, is that I did a lot of covers and stuff like that, But I've just come to a point where I want to push my music as much as I can, and it's getting some great traction in here.
Mhm.
I mean, I get 1,000 hits straight away, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
In this area. I mean, I'm even the new song that I knew as the latest one. It's so quickly it's gone up to like 5,000. So people are there, it's getting noticed.
Mhm.
Like I say, what I would love to do is to really get all my albums noticed at least. Then if you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine, But if you like it, then share it, do what we can.
Yeah.
Because now is the age of the internet. And I firmly believe if there is some miracle to take place, not only for me, but for maybe a younger musician or even an elderly musician, there's always a chance that a song could kind of fly,
Yeah.
to the other side and things could happen. But Jake, send me some of your stuff here now that we're on Facebook or whatever. I'd love to hear you.
Yeah.
Will you do that?
Yeah,
Will you
I
do
can.
that?
I can. I have it
Just-
on my channel where I have my interviews.
Okay, yeah. You have songs? You have your songs on there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And
Lovely.
also, I'd like to ask you.
Yeah.
Just like.
Yeah.
What would you like to say to the fans? To your longtime fans, and also, up and coming fans. That are just getting into like your music.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I'd like them to hear my music also. You know? Apart from anything, I'd like them to even hear the covers that I do. Like at any given gigs, I do a lot of covers.
Yeah.
Only because I'm more singer than songwriter, so to speak. And I think I can handle pretty much any kind of music. And I'm very happy to sing songs that I love. I really am. I mean, you give me a nice, say, a lovely Doors song to sing or whatever, I love it. Or for that matter, a nice blues or Ray Charles or whatever, whatever I'm in the mood to sing. So I would love for people to get to hear. The thing is, the tough part in the music business, you would know better than I, is that, the exposure is what really matters. I have a theory, which I've always stood by, that if you could get your song heard, I mean, played regularly on a channel, and say 3 million people hear it, if it's played regularly, if 2 million hate it and 1 million like it, that's your million seller, I mean, it's literally, exposure is the main thing. you know, the key people in the industry. That's where the record companies come in, etc., etc. You know, a good manager, etc. You know, but what I would really like is for one of my songs, keeping my circumstances in mind, one of my songs being picked up by a nice established artist and someone doing a great job with it. You know, that would make me very happy. Yeah, that I would love to see happen if it happens.
Yeah.
If it does, it doesn't happen.
I mean, I've covered a lot of songs around the world. You're probably next. I might do Nights on Fire.
Okay, give it a shot. Really.
You set my nights on fire. Here blazing red. You set my nights on fire. I'm caught in a sensual air.
Great stuff, Jake. Really. Yeah. Great stuff. Pleasure talking to you, Jake.
All right.
So be in touch. Yeah?
Yeah.
Be in touch. Okay, my friend. I'll see you later.
Yeah, I'll send you my songs too.
Please do. Please do. Yeah.